Welcome back everyone to another Company of Heroes 2 replay cast, and this time it is going to be a 2v2 on Schulberg. Sent in by Strucklen, playing as the Wehrmacht. Thank you for joining the replay. His friend is going to be Russian Vodka, playing also as the Wehrmacht, initially picking elite troops. I don't like elite troops. On the enemy side, we're going to have Flamey, playing as the UKF, and Rock and Roll as the United States. Already coming with some riflemen, of course. Now, Schulberg. It is a map I casted, I believe, only once before. Now, there's a couple of munis in the center along with the VP. A few buildings in very central positions. That is the pretty characteristic part of the map, is that all of the major buildings that you're going to be fighting over are exactly along a line almost in the center of the map. So you're going to be fighting over these, housing blocks, the church, this house, and this house quite a lot. Over the control of the fuel, the VPs, the munitions, and the other fuel as well, with this little house down here as well. So it's in general pretty, I guess, house focused. So buy mortars. I'm not sure why the Germans aren't going for some mortars already. I think that would be a pretty good decision. The American player so far going for 2 riflemen, and Flamey having 1 Vickers machine gun, which is going to get discovered instantly by the Pioneers. Pioneers are going to be forced to think again what they're doing, because I don't think they're going to be able to capture that. And they're going to go for the strategic point. In the north, see the riflemen already fighting the MG42, so the exact opposite is happening as opposed to the other side of the map. And of course, the secondary rifleman group comes in for a flank. Problem is, the machine gun can just simply reposition and fire on the rifleman, although the MG is taking quite a lot of fire, and it's firing on the unfortunate rear echelon troops, so that's kind of bad. Riflemen do, however, get suppressed due to the proximity to the engineers, so that's very, very bad for them. They're going to get pinned down. They do manage to break out of suppression, but now there's some grenadiers and pioneers to assist the machine gun. Machine gun going to be giving a bit of a dose of suppression to the other rifleman squad, hopefully, and then finish off the last one. Yep, although it's starting to go very low on HP, it's going to have to reposition outside of the building. Very good. Coming out of the correct door, and the grenadiers are left to clean up. But there's a second there, or actually a third rifleman squad. It's going to be coming in. I think that the Americans, another Grenadier squad as well, is going to secure the area for the Germans. So Germans in the north quite secure. We have a mortar in the south for the Wehrmacht player, Russian Vodka, which is of course very good. There's a universal carrier which might be a counter to the mortar, but it has to actually flank the MG42. So it's going to have to sort of run around either the road or the southern building to actually get to the mortar. And even then, it would be kind of dangerous due to random grenadiers panzerfausting it. The American riflemen in the north are trying to do something, but they're going to go up against the line of Grens, and the Grens are going to be forcing them away. Again, riflemen going to be essentially forced to retreat with almost no troops left. And we have a 4th rifleman squad by Rock and Roll. So lots of manpower being expended by him. We'll see if he can keep this up. I'm not entirely sure of it, but of course still in the early game. The manpower income is pretty hefty, so you can pretty much spam out those infantry units. Can't really keep that up for a long, long time, however. Rock and Roll does have the fuel for a lieutenant here, and he's not going for one, so I'm guessing he's going to go for a captain and a steward. Well, not sure about the steward, but definitely the captain, because otherwise he is going for a lieutenant. So we might still see a flak half-truck or an M20, which could be very dangerous. Of course, I'm guessing he's also going for some 50 cals. And Strucklen, with the Spearhead Doctrine, is going for some mortar half-tracks. And the mortar half-track, of course, can be quite useful. The problem with the mortar half-track is the cost. 40 fuel for each unit. It's quite a lot, so you're going to have to be using it quite well to have it pay off, because otherwise you just wasted a long collecting of fuel for just a mortar. Essentially, it's the same as the regular German mortar. It's just that, of course, being a mortar half-track, it's more mobile, and in general, it's much more defensible. It's not quite as easy to destroy or decrew. And of course, it cannot be, well, it can be abandoned, but it's much easier to avoid it falling into the hands of the enemy than a normal mortar. In the meantime, the Germans, yeah, in the north are just doing really, really well, and they're pushing away the Americans quite easily. They're going to be able to capture the center building here, and they can put an MG in the house, so that's indeed, I think, what they're going to do, and a good idea in general. Universal Carrier are going to be torching away a bunker. Not sure what that bunker was supposed to do. I'm guessing it was going to have a MG and to try to cover the flank of the German position in the south, but this Wasp carrier is definitely a big counter to anything that the Germans right now have in the south. Stormtroopers have been purchased, revealing the elite troops pick, which is I don't really like Stormtroopers all that much because they're just very, very expensive Panzer Grenadiers that don't come with STG-44s. He's even upgrading them with the Sturmgewehrs, but even then, they're not going to be able to do really much of anything. If they had been upgrading with the anti-tank combat package for the Panzerschreck, might have been able to do something against the Wasp, which is right now just torching everything. It's just, wow, these Germans are basically just kindling for it. Look at that, they're just going in, and there's nothing they can do against the Wasp. Wasp's at 7 kills. It has destroyed a machine gun, almost destroyed the Stormtroopers and just forced everything in the south for the Germans to retreat. And so in the north, the Wehrmacht player Struckland is going to have to be recovering what his ally lost in the south. He's going to have to make up, and not sure if he can right now because he has gone for that mortar half-track. Wow, did he just fire on the move with mortar half-track? That's insane. Yeah, essentially the mortar half-track really isn't made for capping, of course, so Struckland is going to be a little bit behind on that front compared to what he had he gone for something like a 222 to be a little bit more aggressive. Right now, the Lieutenant tier hasn't really materialized into a light vehicle, but he doesn't have a lot of fuel. Did it all go into the ambulance? Wow. Okay. So all the fuel for the allies going into the ambulance for rock and roll. Yeah, the ambulance, of course, is very important to avoid his infantry being essentially at low HP before they even enter the fight. Right now, MG42 firing uphill against the riflemen, forcing them to essentially be pinned down, and the mortar half-track with a nice combo, doing quite a bit of damage to the Americans as they're kind of forced onto the defensive. So North once again is going to go to the Germans, but good play by the Americans coming in and actually capping all of this up, so that the Germans don't really just have it for free. And in the meantime that the Germans are counterattacking in the north, they put the riflemen capturing the center. So pretty nice harassment from Rock and Roll, just kind of preventing the Germans from having the absolute advantage in terms of resources. Right now, Panzer Grenadiers being upgraded with those Panzerschrecks. Gonna be quite good against any light vehicles that the Americans bring out, but the Americans haven't been bringing out any light vehicles at all, so this is just a precaution for now. It can be fairly important in case the Americans do decide to go for something like a flak half-track, but at this point I'm guessing that Rock and Roll is going to go straight to the Sherman, and in that case, just Panzer Grenadiers can be a bit of a liability because of the HE rounds, so having a pack gun, or even better, vehicles of his own, for Struckland is going to be very important. And ooh, Panzerfaust coming in on the UC, and I think that the German infantry are going to be able to shoot it up. Not before taking quite a bit of damage from the UC, of course, but that's just very important to take out that unit, so any casualties really are worth it. In the meantime, a bit of a blob spree coming in from Rock and Roll. That's definitely not the best thing, especially when facing up against an MG and a mortar. I would definitely leave this machine gun in the center to avoid the riflemen just coming in and recapturing it, and then purchasing a second machine gun to put in this building in the north, because right now Struckland has 650 manpower, so he can't afford the extra MG, and oh no, he's going for a second mortar half-track. He hasn't gone for the phase 2 or 3 yet. I definitely think that with the fuel advantage he has, he should have gone for more vehicles of the combat kind instead of just artillery and direct fire. Because right now, having the second mortar half-track doesn't really give him any more capabilities than what he had before. He already had the mortar half-track, and he already had, of course, the ability to hit the enemies from far away. What he needed to do was upgrade his own normal combat capabilities instead of the artillery. Because right now, having a second mortar half-track doesn't really give him much. I mean, of course, there's lots of riflemen over here, but that could have been dealt with by an extra machine gun plus the mortar half-track just as well as it, well, in fact, even better than what he can do with 2 mortar half-tracks. It looks like he's using the double mortar half-track to help out his ally and destroy the Bofors from Flamey. Flamey has gone for the Mobile Assault Regiment, of course. I hate Mobile Assault Regiment so much. I just don't like it. Infiltration Commandos, 440 manpower for this unit is just too much. I would never pay this much for a unit that is essentially a shock troop, right? With only 4 men, with no armor modifier, and with less damage. Of course, they can place down demo charges, but I mean, you can buy an engineer. Of course, well, you really can't as the Brits, but you know, you get what I mean. Oh, that was an excellent grenade, by the way. Taking out one of these poor squads by Strickland, which are not right now not being retreated. This is definitely a very bad defeat for the Germans. They might even lose this other grenadier. He's so very low at like 1 HP, and he's lucky as hell. If I was the rifleman right now, rock and roll, I would have absolutely prioritized the retreating grenadier. Just attack move into the unit and, you know, try to destroy it, focus all the fire I can. But this is definitely a huge victory for the Allies as they managed to steal NG42 and they also managed to take out some veteran units from the Germans, which is, of course, very good. Right now, there's also a 50 cal from Rock and Roll. He's going for a 5th Rifleman squad, a 3rd machine gun, along with a captain and a lieutenant. This is definitely way too many infantry squads for him. He does not need more than, I think, 2 machine guns, and of course the officers plus 4 rifleman squads. That is already plenty of infantry and weapon teams. He does not need any more of that. He's right now at less than 200 income for manpower, which right now may not seem like much. It's like, oh, it's 50 manpower less than Russian vodka per minute. But considering that the game is likely to run at least 20 or 30 more minutes, you can, you know, see that 50 manpower a minute means very, very quickly 1,000, 2,000 manpower more in the long term. And right now, he doesn't. That's a bit like the same thing with the double mortar half-track. Wait, is this a 3rd mortar half-track? Did one of the mortar half-tracks die? Yes, it did. Right over here. Looks like it got destroyed by probably the Vickers with the AP rounds at Veteran C2. I don't know. Very weird. But still. Ooh, White Phosphorus Barrage. This could be very devastating if Strickland doesn't just retreat. Of course, the White Phosphorus is much more effective when you also have something to follow it up with, like a flank. But yeah, this is a bit like the double mortar half-track. All this infantry on all these weapon teams don't really give the American player any more capabilities than what he already has. It just upgrades something that is already good and doesn't need to be upgraded. Also, this is an interesting facing for this machine gun. I don't think it's going to be able to fire through this hay bale, but oh well, that's just my impression. Rock and Roll has got the rifle company, which of course is pretty good. With the EZ8s though, you'd expect him to be saving up manpower because the EZ8s aren't cheap, 380 manpower and 140 fuel. So you want to be pumping them out as quickly as possible, and of course, you would also want a lot of rear echelon troops to be able to support the EZ8s with minesweepers and, you know, repair them. Of course, they do have the repair crews that you can just jump out, but sometimes it's just not safe to jump out your vehicle crew to repair. So I think that instead of going for all those MGs and all those riflemen, I think that a couple of rear echelons plus an ET gun would have been a much safer option. ET gun because of something like this. Russian Vodka, unlike his teammate Strickland, has decided to go for a tier 4, and that's the result. The Panther, the Centaur AE tank cannot do anything against it, and of course, oh, what was that smoke? That might save the Centaur. Of course, the smoke was meant to block out the bazooka. Centaur might even get away. No, it does go down. But the Panther is in the middle of enemy territory, well, quote-unquote enemy territory. It's in the middle between a sort of a rock and a hard place. The hard place being enemy territory, and the rock being all this blob of infantry from the American player. And surprise, surprise, it's a 6-pounder. Very good positioning from that 6-pounder. Very late spawn of stormtroopers, but it's gonna be enough to actually wipe out the crew of this AT gun. Might not be enough to stop the captain with the bazooka coming in. I think that this was a bit of a mistake by Russian Vodka not focus firing on the captain. Right now he's doing that though, however, with the stormtroopers with the STG-44s, and they do manage to force the captain to retreat, wipe out a a rifleman squad. Unfortunately, a stormtrooper squad also went down, and these riflemen are trying to chase down the Panther to use an anti-tank rifle grenade. They also have a bazooka sneakily. It doesn't show in the unit icon because they also have a bar. That's a very sneaky thing to do from Rock and Roll, which could be fairly decent. And right now, while it may seem like the Allies lost the engagement because they lost more units, they actually won the engagement because they have managed to capture the north and center of the map. So in terms of VPs, they are once again in the lead. And here comes an infiltration commando trying to throw a gammon bomb on the Panther, but it misses, unfortunately, and it does not destroy the Panther. Look at that. It's just so very low. It's at less than 1%. It must be at like 0%. Struklen calls in a Tiger, and this is a very, very strong call-in, because the Brits lack an AT. The Brits lack in everything. They spent so much manpower on these infiltration commandos, so they can't go for another AT gun to replace the one they lost. They don't have their comfort of their, Bofors anymore, so they can't even turtle up against an area. They don't have any forward retreat points. They've spent humongous amounts of resources, 350 manpower and 40 fuel on a land mattress, which hasn't done anything so far. It's also revealed itself, and it was even positioned in a pretty exposed location right near the VP. So that allows the Tiger to come in. Right now, all of these infantry squads can't really do anything against the Tiger because they haven't been upgraded with bazookas, because there isn't enough, munitions in the stores of the Americans to upgrade all the infantry with bazookas. And even if they were upgraded with bazookas, it would be pretty dangerous to send them in against the Tiger because of the Tiger's excellent HE rating, so they would be taking huge casualties fighting the Tiger. Right now, the Tiger is fighting the EZ-8 head-on, and it's not having the best of lucks. The EZ-8 has been penetrating the Tiger with pretty much every round, as has been for the bazookas. EZ-8 manages to very narrowly escape, as kind of does the Tiger. Tiger using the Panzer Tactician actually saves the EZ-8, but the EZ-8 comes back in. Why? That is definitely not what the EZ-8 should have been doing. And in fact, it pays for its, I guess, recklessness with its life. And that was very bad. Right now, the Germans do have the advantage because of the presence of this Tiger. Russian Vodka still has his Panther, I'm guessing. Wait. How did he lose the Panther? Oh no, it's alive. It's just like a base repairing. So, right now, the Allies in a bad way. Russian Vodka is also doing exactly what he should be doing with elite troops, which is to say, actually build things before you go for the Tiger Ace, which may seem, oh, this is not good for the Tiger. Where's the anti-tank rifle grenade? It is coming on the Tiger, and that's, I think, the end of the vehicle. Unless, here comes the Panther, trying to actually run over the infantry is enough to force them to retreat. Very good. Also doing lots and lots of damage to the Allied infantry. And there's a spawn of stormtroopers in the rear, wiping out one of the squads, maybe wiping out a second one. No, it was repositioning, and so the accuracy was low. But yes, this is exactly what you should be doing with elite troops with Tiger Ace. You don't want to be waiting for a Tiger Ace and bringing it out without, actually building anything before that, because Tiger Ace's call-in is only 800 manpower, but it reduces your manpower and fuel income by 90 and 25%. So you want to have already built things before that, because you're not going to be building anymore after. You're going to be stuck with whatever you're left with from your income. You're not going to be able to replenish any of the vehicles that you lose because your fuel income is going to be so damn pathetic. So you need to have a force of vehicles already set up before you go for the Tiger Ace. And right now, Firefly, for the Brits, is a good decision because they need something to counter both the Panther and the Tiger. Tiger's back at base repairing, I'm guessing. Yes. One thing that the Germans are doing better than the Allies is the actual count of engineers. The Germans have more than 2 engineer squads. They have 4 of them, whereas the Allies have 0 plus 0 engineers. So of course, right now they can't even repair the Firefly, and Flamey decided to go for another Infiltration Commando. This is just infuriating. The Infiltration Commandos are 440 manpower apiece, and he's just losing them left and right. I think that's like the 3rd one, right? 3rd one he's lost, yes. So, without even really doing a lot with them. And of course, when he could have just been going for a solid line of line infantry with some infantry sections plus some engineers, Royal Engineers, to support them, that would have been so much better. Because not only they are less expensive than the Infiltration Commandos, but they're also better at destroying enemy infantry, because you can just upgrade them with Brens, and they're going to have more firepower at long range than the Infiltration Commandos. Of course, you can also upgrade the Infiltration Commandos with Brens, but it's just like, you know, not quite as, I guess, efficient in terms of manpower as it would be with the infantry sections, which is the whole point. Infantry sections aren't that expensive, they're 280. Whatever, I just don't like Infiltration Commandos, they're just terrible. Also, the Land Mattress hasn't really done anything this entire game, and it's gotten 4 kills. With 40 fuel that you spent on this, on this launcher, you'd expect it to do a little bit better. Right now, the Tiger is definitely not being used in the correct manner. The Tiger isn't a vehicle that you try to run over people with. It's lucky that these are 2 officers, both the lieutenant, which has gone down to the mortar half-track, and the captain, so they can't use rifle grenades like they're riflemen. If those had been riflemen, I think the Tiger would have been in trouble. But the riflemen right now are kind of busy just pushing up against actually the mortar half-tracks. So that may be pretty bad. Last bazooka shot does not materialize, and the mortar half-track manages to retreat while firing against the poor rifleman. Right now, another Sherman has been called in by Rock and Roll, and right now he's just kind of on a bit of a vicious cycle of losing Shermans and replacing them, which is the pretty much worst thing you can do. Whenever you're going for cheap medium tanks, you want to keep them alive so that you can eventually build up a horde of them. This is definitely a good flank, but the EZ-8 was not on prioritized vehicles, so it wastes its first shot on the infantry, also revealing itself. Then the Tiger manages to destroy the Firefly, while the EZ-8 didn't manage to destroy the Tiger. Tiger manages to use the line of sight from both the smoke and the building to get behind, might be able to escape even. It's at long range, manages to get around the corner and the hay bale, and the EZ-8 right now is going to be trying to chase through the rear. I'm hoping no, it does not, and it's also easy prey for the Panther coming in with the Blitz from the rear. Very good job from Russian Vodka, destroying that EZ-8, and also going for a new Panther before going for the Tiger Ace call-in. This is exactly what he should be doing, except for, again, all these Stormtroopers, I don't think they're a good decision, because Stormtroopers are essentially Panzer Grenadiers that can stealth, right? And that you can call in from buildings. Of course, you're paying more for the ability to be called in from buildings. Just like with the Infiltration Commandos, you're paying more for that, because it can be used to very devastating effect. Now, the other difference is, of course, the difference between the upgrades. The Stormtroopers, I believe, don't get the full upgrades. Oh, come on. You get, oh, you actually, no, you get 4 Stormgears. Okay, never mind. You get 4 Stormgears, of course, for 100 munitions instead of just having the Stormgears from the start. You also get the ability to have Jaeger Infantry Package, which is the same as the Grenadiers, which is, in my opinion, the worst of all of them. Well, you didn't really prove me wrong there, Mr. Stormtrooper. Yeah, because I think that if you're going for the Jaeger Infantry, you might as well just go for a lot of Grenadiers, so that you can use the interrogation ability, and you can use the pretty good medium range capabilities of the G43s to their best effect. The Panzerschreck, again, you might as well just be going for the Panzer Grenadiers, because the anti-tank combat package is 75 munitions for 1 Panzerschreck, whereas the anti-tank combat package of the Panzer Grenadiers is 120 munitions, so more, of course, but for 2 Panzerschrecks. So if you divide that by 2, you're paying 60 for each Panzerschreck, instead of 75. The 15 munitions is because you get the detection ability, so that's just like the vehicle detection that detects enemy vehicles in the fog of war in a radius around the squad. It costs a bit of munitions, and it lasts like 40 seconds, something like that, which is of course pretty useful, but you know, you don't exactly need it, right? And I think the reason that you'd go for Stormtroopers really is, one, the camouflage, combined with the Sturmgewehrs. Now you might be thinking, well, you just said that you don't like the Panzerschrecks because, you know, they're more expensive than the Panzergrenadiers. Well, so of course, 100 instead of 0 munitions is quite a lot more expensive, right? Well, the Forged Sturmgewehrs do get you the tactical advance ability, which is amazing for wiping out enemy squads because it makes the unit both more accurate and receive more accuracy, but have a more, you know, bigger received accuracy modifier, so they take more hits. They're easier to hit. The good thing about it is that you can use it against retreating enemy units to wipe them out pretty much with great efficiency and in a way that enemies don't really often expect, because you think, oh, I'm just retreating away from the enemy, right? And he cannot wipe me out, but then you pop tactical advance and you just get a huge burst of damage that the enemy does not expect. This Panther is definitely going to retreat. Whenever you're retreating vehicles, make sure that you retreat first the one that's more damaged, which was unfortunate because Russian Vodka retreated the one that was more healthy. Oh well. Sherman Firefly's kind of succeeding and managing to survive doesn't really mean a lot for the Oz, because in the north we have Struklen just completely charging through with the Tiger, and as I kind of expected, Rock and Roll doesn't really have the ability to counter it because he hasn't gone for any 57mm AT guns until now, and because he spent so much infantry and now he's out of manpower. He spent so much manpower on infantry and now he's out of manpower, and because he basically threw away his first Easy 8, thus forcing himself into the vicious cycle of get Easy 8, throw Easy 8 into the fight, lose Easy 8, which you can substitute Easy 8 for pretty much any medium tank in that cycle. It can happen with any medium tank, it can happen with T3 Fords, it can happen with Panzer IVs, it can happen with, you know, anything, you just know it. Cromwells, etc. Instead of building up one huge horde, which right now he would have like 3 Easy 8s, 4 Easy 8s, what? He would have 3. Instead of having 3, he's gone 1. And he's spent the exact same amount of, you know, resources, which, by the way, adds up to more resources than what Mr. Struklen has spent for the Tiger, because 350 times 3 is, no, 380, sorry, times 3 is 160, 240 plus 900, 1,140 manpower, and 300, 520 fuel, as opposed to the Tiger, which is 640 and 280, right? No, 230, sorry. So, of course, you're spending more on 3 Easy 8s than you're doing on 1 Tiger. In fact, you would be spending more on 2 Easy 8s than you would be on 1 Tiger, right? Yeah, you would be. And you're even getting less of an impact. So that's why heavy tanks, especially for newer players who have trouble with unit preservation and stuff like that, and of course also trouble with recognizing when to commit to an attack. That's why heavy tanks are so very popular, and sometimes people think that heavy tanks are overpowered. Because as a single unit, it's harder to lose it than lots of smaller units that perhaps are harder to manage, harder to micro, and even you can just lose them separately. So, as a whole, they're more efficient. Fictitiously, but they're more efficient. So that's why you see more newer players going for a lot of heavy tanks, like Tigers, like, you know, King Tigers, etc., etc. Because it feels like they're better and they're easier to use. Well, they're of course easier to use, so they feel like they're better, whereas, as you've seen probably many times in my replays, and if you've played, of course, you can see a lot of good players going for swarms of medium tanks, keeping them alive, getting them bedded up, using them correctly with flanking maneuvers, surprise attacks, smoke, minesweepers, infantry support. Of course, using all those things, also off-map support, you can make medium tanks work. But this didn't work this time, and the heavy panzers came through in the end, and the enemy surrenders. So I want to thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed this replay. Hope you learned something, and I'll see you soon.